Alrighty, good morning. Welcome in to another episode of Good Morning NASDAQ, the greatest show on earth, where we like to talk pre-market prep in the small cap space, talk about the temperature of the market, go through a couple gappers of the day, talk a little fundamentals, talk a little daily charts, sprinkle in a little bit of education for you guys on this fourth day, this Thursday of April 2024. Huddy is in the midst of traveling. So we have a special guest, but not all that special. He's been here a lot over the last few weeks, Mr. Kyle Williams.
Yeah, he's not special.
He's
He's just our
special.
backup.
He's just like not that special. You know?
He's just
Kyle
here.
Williams, folks.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Welcome
So
into
weird.
another day. We had a great Wine Wednesday last night. You guys can catch
It
the
was a good one.
replay if you just so you guys all know. If you head on over to the Clover Trading YouTube channel, you go to playlists, you click on Wine Wednesday. They will be uploaded there, and you can rewatch them at your leisure later on. All right, how's everyone doing? We got Joseph in the room, William Gregory, of course, asking, where's Eric? That's a great question. I don't see him. He's usually the first one into the chat every morning, into the Clover chat at least, usually making trades bright and early. Happy days, entertainment, the adventure B word. Welcome in, everybody. This is your friendly reminder, because in about 15 minutes it won't be as friendly, that you hit the like button, that you're subscribed to the channel, that you are watching the content, that you are commenting on the videos, that you are here in the chat representing for the morning crew. But we also want to just say thank you. Appreciate you guys being here every morning. We wouldn't have a show if we didn't have you, and our heart goes out to all you. We just thank you so much for being here and to share our passion with stock trading, this very up and down business that we all are addicted to at some level. So, Mr. Kyle, what's the temperature of the market right now? What are we feeling like in small caps? How is it different from the last few weeks? What is the same? What are your thoughts going into the end of the week here? I like to break it up into kind of halves. Yesterday is hump day, live trading day. The first 2 days we kind of have, some direction that the gappers are going in, that the market's in, and then the end of the week, it's usually never the same all week. So where are we at right now?
Um, my win rate has been lower to start off April, to say the least. Doesn't mean plays aren't going around, right? The weed stocks are hot. That's kind of bringing some momentum in. However, they're not that hot this morning pre-market, so maybe it was just a one-day kind of thing. We'll see by the end of the day today. So things are still rumbling and rolling. I just think they need to be managed differently, if that makes sense. Which in the webinar that Huddy and I gave on Tuesday, we talked a lot more in detail how we've just always noticed a little bit of a shift in April. And it's happened in all different ranges throughout April. And unfortunately, this happened, for at least for me personally, very early in April. And so, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. I don't have any maybe intricate exact reasons why it's shifted. For me, it just has. I feel it to some degree, if that makes sense. So
You think it's more on you? I hear people say that all the time. Kellogg brought it up in the room earlier this week, just like, April's my worst performing month. Take it easy, size down. I tend to look at it from a totally different point of view, because I think it all comes down to the trader and the opportunities. Like, I feel like there's enough opportunities every month for you to have a decent month, especially you, who's such a good trader. And maybe you just run into situations where your size is just so much bigger that if you take an A+ trade that turns into a big loser, it's harder for you to get out of it. And maybe that happens more often in April. Maybe it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't know what it is. But I haven't really noticed anything in April so far that makes me think, if anything, I like April a lot more than March so far.
right, and maybe it's just based on a style or strategy. So like me, Kellogg, and whoever else being maybe predominantly a short seller, just get squeezed more. I mean, that's really what big losses were to start the month, which was just getting squeezed. Versus on your side, where it's like you've been nailing breakouts, and Huddy said himself, like all his best setup for March was breakouts. So that's kind of what's been working in the last few weeks. So it doesn't surprise me that the wheat stocks yesterday all offered at some level some kind of solid breakout move. Which hence you'd benefit greatly. So I think that would be my first thought there. But yeah, other than that, yeah. But also, I agree. It only takes one A+ setup to not work for me to then be having a bigger loss than I really normally take. Whether it just typically happens in April. Yes and no. I just know the last 3 or 4 Aprils, I've always had some kind of big loss. I don't know why. And I honestly didn't even notice that until March, like this year. So I don't know. Hopefully we'll figure it out. But yeah, just how it is.
You will figure it out. We all know you will. We're all rooting for you. And it'll make great content for when you do in 1 week, probably. Get all your money back and are back soaring to new highs. I'm excited to see what that looks like.
We'll see.
But all right. Everyone seems to be coming in here. Make sure you're hitting that like button. It's still a little low for my liking. I'll remind you again at like 9:03 to hit the like button if you haven't already. Put your cursor over to the thumbs up button. Click it. You're good. That's your punch your ticket to Good Morning NASDAQ. All right. Gappers this morning. Looking a little light, and I just say that because we don't have a triple digit. Unless we do, my scanner's been, Huddy's found a couple over like 80% up on the day that just weren't on my scanner. But the highest one I see is a $5 stock, up 92%, TVGN. Tevagen Bio Holdings, a biotech rep and a 24.5 million float. Let's see if there's news. There was news. What is the ticker?
Oh no,
TVGN.
TV. Yeah. Did you type in TCV or TCGN? I accidentally just did that.
I did on my chart. 1 second. Let me see. I just want to see if it ran yesterday. Not really, because the news was yesterday at 8 a.m. and nothing happened. They appointed Tapan V. Shah as head of investor relations and corporate development. It's the only news I see, but they're up this morning. Cash need is high, but their ability to dilute looks like it might be low. Former SPAC. Let's take a look at the chart. Always like to start with the daily chart and kind of get an understanding of what this stock's history is, where its resistance and support levels are. Looks like a fresh ticker. Pretty much one big day of note on no volume, basically, where it went from 5 to 20s. So this is a pretty fresh chart with nothing going on. Not my favorite. I do prefer stocks with structure, stocks with behavioral, where I can do behavioral analysis on them and go, oh, every time they get 50 million in volume, they spike a little bit and then fade all day, or they tend to hold up and go on multi-day moves. I like to have some piece of information that allows me to know a little bit more into the inner workings of the stock. It looks like it's an Amex stock. Yeah, not a lot of interest for me here today. Up 90% right now, the biggest gapper so far. What are your thoughts, Kyle?
Yeah, looks like a former D-SPAC. I know that because it was trading at $10 forever with no volume. That's how D-SPACs usually work. I'm just guessing. Has had one run day, like you mentioned. February, and then nothing. So not much history to go off of. Does say on Dilution Tracker they need cash, but they also converted 2 million shares, I believe, sometime in the Q1 or like February. You said it was Amex. I'm seeing it's NASDAQ. I don't know.
Wonderful. We had this discussion 2 days ago.
What's what?
A different ticker. It was supposed to be New York Stock Exchange, and everyone was like, it's Amex, and it just could be wrong.
Yeah. So, statistically, most of these fail. I feel like we've heard, I can just take the role of Huddy this morning, right? No matter what we think, most of these fail. So I'm going to lean towards that thought. Otherwise, I don't have any good thoughts about it. To be frank, I don't know if it's worth going up running. It is a D-SPAC, so sometimes I'm not going to do. I don't have the tools or the energy to want to dig in deeper. But sometimes D-SPACs are good gap and craps because if there's insiders willing or able to sell sooner than if they sold like out of an IPO. Like when you IPO, you have to wait 6 months or 180 days, whatever it is, to then sell for any insider to sell their shares after the IPO date. Most, not all. Some IPOs are structured differently. But with D-SPACs or SPACs that now are merged into a real company, I think most can actually sell their shares fairly early on. There was literally one yesterday that D-SPACed, and it literally gapped up like 80 to 100%, and immediately was at red green by 30 minutes in because I would assume whoever was holding that thing sold into it heavily. Don't know if that's a TVGN scenario because it has already ran back in February and didn't do that. It didn't just get crushed. It actually ran a little bit. Maybe this time gapping up, it's a different dynamic. It didn't run. It's actually already kind of run pre-market. That's a hypothesis. But again, I have no evidence of that being the case. I just know sometimes it will happen on D-SPACs. So keep that in mind if you're looking at this for a long. So
Yeah, I'm rarely interested in day ones just because I don't specialize in them. I don't really have an edge long on them, which is the way I prefer to trade. I'd much rather wait for the ones that hold up and go on multi-day moves, and then wait for them to come into my wheelhouse. But I'm a lot less interested in weeks too, where there's a lot of daily charts out there that are interesting to me. We had the pot stocks yesterday. We have a lot of breakouts that are still holding up, a lot of charts from the last week that are still around to keep an eye on for first green days, first red days. And so stuff like this that is just a little more confusing, not a lot of structure behind it, where I would have to think a lot more, dive into. I could probably go back and back test and try to figure out what a lot of these stocks did that have no relative trading history. They're D-SPACs that pop up out of the blue, up 50, 80, 100%, whatever it is, and see their performance. But I will not be doing that. So that is TVGN. TCBP is the next one. A lot of T's today. You see here,
68%. A
this
lot of dilution. It looks like
it ran in basically a month ago. It's a biotech out of the United Kingdom. If there's news today, look at that news. Announces execution of non-binding letter of intent for acquisition of NK Platform Technologies. They pretty much ran in all categories. What were you going to say?
So we got another letter of intent.
Letter of intent. They're intending. 0.7 months of cash left. Says offering ability is low. I do see some warrants at $2. 1.7 million left. Okay, and the price is at $2 right now.
Right.
A lot higher. I hate when I have to scroll a lot. 0.00000. Okay, so there's some news here. It's a biotech 3 million float for a $2 stock, quite low. Let's take a look at the chart. Like I said, ran back in January, February, March. I'm one of those people who has to go through start to finish to get to the number of the month. Topped out at like 320, 317 on decent volume. Did 139 million. Basically had a small gap into 160. Morning spiked to 3, so pretty strong move before fading off pretty much exactly back where it came from. This is what I mean when I say there's some structure, there's some clear levels. I could, if I'm just a technical trader and I'm not diving into anything else, I know where the resistance is. A move, we're only up 65% on the day, but we'll probably be up closer to 100%. We would be up 100% if we spiked into that resistance level. Maybe that volume back then is too overwhelming. We're not doing a ton of volume right now. And maybe that's the type of approach I take, where a spike into that level, maybe there's a predictable pullback coming. If I'm a long bias trader, maybe if it's holding over $3 around that resistance level into the afternoon and doing 150, 200 mil, maybe it then becomes a multi-week, multi-month breakout. At least I have angles to play off of when I can see some behavior from the stock. But the only behavior was that at morning spiked, it looked like, and then faded all day. So that doesn't give me a lot of hope when we're doing late volume right now that the stock is going to be able to surpass that and do the same type of move twice. And even if it did, that'd probably give me more credence to the potential short into resistance. I like to really give stocks if-then statements. If it does this, then I will do that. Not try to predict what it's going to do. I've never been good at that. So that's kind of how I would view it. There's not a lot going back. It looks like it has to be reverse splitted. But there's really nothing besides 2024 that's all that relevant to me. And that's the one big day that matters. You kind of have this 170 area as well on decent volume. But that's kind of how I would analyze a chart like this. If I had a gun to my head and had to play it, those would kind of be the angles that I'd be looking at.
Right on. I agree.
Kyle agrees. Is there any other gappers you really want to talk about? There's HWH, RELI that are both in that 40 to 50% range.
Yeah. Not really. I mean, I don't know. You can see how we sound spoiled in small cap land. We're like 40, 50% lame. Like, where's the 70, 80, 90, 100% ones? We like volatility.
It's kind of weird. It's kind of been an interesting correlation because I didn't do all that well in the market where we had the 100, 200, 300% gappers every day for 2 weeks because I mean, stocks statistically are going to fail more often than not when they start to pass 50, 70, 100% up on day one gappers. And you start to have so many of them, you're going to have a lot of failures on day one. Very rarely did stocks hold up, set up for multi-day moves. But what we've seen, I feel like over the past week or two, is a lot of stocks in that 30, 40, 50% range holding up, maybe going an extra day, and they're being a little more off radar until you make your watch list a day or two later. And then those stocks are going higher. And maybe that, so there's some correlation between these lower gappers, like we're not getting the crazy gappers, and there's a much more spread market right now where there's a lot of stuff in play that's not going bananas, but there's still big percent moves to be had there. And that's at least what I've seen so far. So maybe the crazy gappers isn't great for the multi-day setups, but it is for the day one guys, people who really excel in buying low floats, buying short squeezes, or shorting them when they've squeezed out and got overextended. But that's just kind of my 4 cents. Let's see if there's any questions so far. 119 of you watching, 50 likes. I promised I would bash you if that number is not where it needs to be. So right now, I'm going to politely say, hit the like button. The show's free. We're here every single day, Monday through Friday for Good Morning NASDAQ. Wednesday nights for Wine Wednesday. Love being here live with you guys for free. All we ask is that you hit the like button, that you're subscribed to the channel. And that's it. That's all we ask. Let's see if there's any questions in the room, anything we want to talk about. Someone asked, why does it matter if a ticker is NASDAQ or Amex? I don't really even know how to answer that with any real...
Yeah.
I just know that we trade a lot, like 95+% NASDAQ, so it's easy to put them in a box and say this is how we expect them to trade. I think I've heard people call Amex Scamex. Do you remember back in the day, I don't know if it was Amex or New York Stock Exchange or if it was just some NASDAQ, the 5-cent ticker pilot thing?
I don't
where the
think
spread was 5 cents no matter what?
Oh, that was crazy. I
Was
hated
that only Amex or New York Stock Exchange tickers?
I think that was Amex because there wasn't that many of them, but I remember when I traded them,
Dude, it was
the dumbest thing.
Crazy.
I was so furious.
Do
I
you have
almost
a good
stopped
answer to
trading
that
them
though?
at some point.
NASDAQ versus... I just feel like it's just we're used to one over the other. It's like back in the day when I traded primarily OTCs and I saw a breakout in listed land, it was of note to me because I knew it wasn't an OTC and it might trade... Well, it was definitely going to trade differently, and it was just something important for me to know.
I don't know. You just made me a blast from the past. Holy crap. I completely forgot about that little program.
Yeah, that was like probably 2017, 18.
Yeah, it lasted for what, like a year, 6 months, and then that's the thing. They never really told us when it was ending, and so I think I just ended it, and I totally never noticed it because I just hated it so much. But yeah, there's no real strong reason why we like to know Amex or Nasdaq. They relatively trade the same. They're all under the listed umbrella of listed stocks. Really, what's more important is whether you know whether it's OTC or Nasdaq. That's really the important notice. Yeah, you call Amex Scamex. Not to say that a lot of NASDAQ companies also aren't scams. Like there's just plenty of them. But yeah, it almost doesn't really matter. I can't tell you how many times I've traded an Amex stock thinking it was NASDAQ. It wasn't, and it didn't change how I thought things would play out. So it's not a big deal. I think maybe don't read into it too much that I asked him why he said Amex because I say here NASDAQ. We just like to know. Right, being any meticulous trader, you kind of want to know those details. I'd want to know if it's NASDAQ or if it's New York Stock Exchange. New York Stock Exchange typically has more legit companies. So if I'm trading a New York Stock Exchange stock, I will adjust and maybe change my expectations. It's just good to know what exchange we're dealing with. So
yeah. And someone brought up, there's different probably rules, criteria to be on the different exchanges. Those type of things will matter. Most of these stocks are just coming into our lives for very short periods of time. So not necessarily super important, but it is just something to know. It's a filler for me to just say something as well. I just noticed it was Amex and I was like, it's Amex, but maybe it isn't even. What do you guys use to back test? I'm not a big back tester. I talk to people that are smarter than me if I really have an idea. I know they use SpikeEat, which is more user-friendly. I think there's a lot of AI involved. So if you're not a coder, you don't know how to write code, It's a lot easier to get some answers. I know Polygon is something a lot of people use. I think you have to be able to code to use that. Find a smart person and ask them questions. Find someone you know who's into computer science, who can build you spreadsheets. If you have an idea, you have a hypothesis, that's a great place to start. Or you can just backtest performance, trade for a while, and just go through average winner, average loser, what patterns are working, which patterns aren't, and then kind of use that to flow for years.
I have the same answer. I've actually never truly backtested myself. Right.
Neither.
I've had people smarter than me when it comes to coding and stuff like that to actually, just do the backtesting. In my early career, I forward tested, which is a big pain in the butt. It's essentially, when a setup comes along, you track it, everything about it, and you just keep on tracking every time a setup pops up. It would take months for me to even get, a few dozen of them, depending on the setup, right? And so it helped me learn, obviously, about trading, but I quickly stopped after like 1 year in of tracking maybe 2 setups because I was just like, this isn't efficient. And I hate coding, so ergo never really got into backtesting.
Yeah, I've done that too before, where you just have an idea. I did that with Doji Day 1 for a while. And it's effective, I think, because you're using current market. You're getting data from the current market that you're trading in, so it's important. Like, oh, this was what was happening 2 weeks ago, and maybe that's why the results are skewed this way. Or when you backtest, it's hard to remember when you're seeing 500 examples over the last 10 years what was going on in any one given time frame. And I guess that's, I think, a lot better for systematic type of styles. Whereas a lot of what we do, there is a lot of discretion and nuance within it, which is why you see, like, we don't trade every breakout. We don't trade every first red day. There's other stuff mixed in there in terms of liquidity, range, all that stuff. And so forward testing, I think, is also, it can be efficient if you stick to it, but you have to be on top of it because you're not really using any powerful mediums to do it. Someone asked, CXAI good short under 4.8. Well, entertainment, I can't answer that question for you. That's going to have to be for you to decide what pattern that is for you. It's not a pattern for me. Right now, this is just a stock that went on a pretty big move from the 2s up to the 7s, had a first red day down to the $4 area, bounced yesterday into the high 5s, and this is kind of your range, 411 to 561. And I don't have any patterns at this point. My whole style is little moments within the whole scheme. I mean, the whole life cycle of these stocks are available. The first move here, I generally avoid. First red day, maybe I participate in that. Reversal, I participate in that, but not yesterday because of how big the gap was out of the gate. And so now we get towards the end where it's like, does it set back up for a breakout? Does this death line hold, or does it fade off? And I generally leave these alone right now. They'll continue to live on a list. I look at it every night, but until it's clear one way or the other, I won't trade it to the downside most likely, but if it holds up, maybe there's a trade for me in the future.
Yeah, I like that answer from you, Dom, to that question, because really depends to you whether you want to short this or not. For me personally, there is no setup on CXI that I see that justifies a short. But again, I don't know a setup that's appearing in front of my face when I look at this chart. So maybe you do, and if you do, then go for it. But I do not. I don't see personally. I don't see a long or a short setup when I look at CXAI. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's something you learn as you trade longer. Is you just start to look at things and you know what you want to do with it, or if you don't want to do with it. And I think it's very important that you learn when you don't want to do anything with it, because that obviously prevents unnecessary losses. But you got to know who you are as a trader, what you're looking for, and if something fits your criteria. This could be someone's A+ setup, right? It's not mine, and so I'm not going to bash the idea or say don't do it or do it. I'm basically saying even if it was something that I really liked, I still wouldn't tell you do it or don't do it, because it's up to you, and does it fit your style, your plan? You could trade my plan and still lose while I win on my plan. It's all very, very different, and the way, what you want to do as a trader and what patterns you want to trade is all personal. And there's no way for me to say yes or no to any question about tickers. There's no right or wrong answer. Let's see here. I'll answer another question and get over to the Clover room. William Geiger says dedication, no shortcuts is the common characteristic. Oh, is there a question that he's answering? Except for risk management and discipline cliche criteria, what do you maybe think is the most common characteristics among great traders like Tim, Jack, and yourselves? Kyle?
A characteristic?
Yeah, what do you think? Like, besides risk management and discipline and having criteria, what do you think is the most common characteristic?
I want to say attention to detail, right? Consist like back to the back to the back to the NASDAQ Amex question. You know, does it really matter? Maybe not. But do Dom and I want to know? Yes. You know, I think it's attention to detail. I think it's consistency, being able to show up every day and stick through the hard times, because there will be hard times for everyone. It's perseverance. It's a passion for the game, right? If you're just in it to make money, I promise you won't last, because you can make money anywhere. And if you're going to make money not enjoying it, then good luck, because it's going to be hard enough to where you will likely quit. Many people do. And yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, what you said there is kind of the answer. There is no juice. There's no special chimichurri sauce that we all have that no one else is capable of. It really is managing risk, discipline, and having criteria for your setups. Having the discipline to stick to those setups. Having the risk management to take small losses time and time again while your winners are much bigger. It's a math equation of all those things. And you add in consistency of all those three things, and you get a profitable trader. I've never met a trader. Oh, there's a few, maybe one or two, but the majority of traders I've met who have made 6 figures or 7 figures or more, when I meet them in person, usually it's at conferences or events, or they are regular people who, when I talk to them, I don't go, wow, that guy seems like he's a PhD. Like, when you find a really successful person in trading, it's all stuff you've heard before. The way they talk, it's support, resistance, it's sticking to their patterns, it's having good risk management. Like, it's just doing that so well and so efficiently and having such an attention to detail, like Kyle said, that they make money over time, and they scale that up little by little, and eventually what used to be a $500 trade for them is a $50,000 trade. And that's really all it is. And I think that's what is kind of frustrating as mentors and teachers, is that, every week it's not like we have some groundbreaking new information that's going to that you can take and look for. I mean, like, change the whole game. Like, it's rare you're ever going to find that. It's usually just looking at history and trying to be as consistent as possible in following that history right now and in the future. And there's no secret sauce. I wish there was. None of us have been able to find it. It's usually just trading stuff that's been standing the test of time, because people are the same. Human psychology is the same, hasn't changed much. Most patterns that work big picture across the whole market over the last 100 years still work today, because people are people. And if you can realize that and use it to your advantage, you can be successful. But that is the secret sauce: risk management, discipline, and having criteria. And if you can knock off all those boxes, it'd be very hard with a good work ethic to not succeed. And realizing that in the beginning, even when you're losing, to have the will to push on and do it, I think is also very, very important. So that is the hour. I just want to let you guys all know you did great today in the like button, 80 likes. So W's in the chat for you guys. If you want to bring that energy every morning, you'll get more energy out of us. And then it's just a cycle and a flow. So thank you guys for being here today. We'll be live tomorrow morning, 8:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have a webinar today for all you 4-leaf clovers. If you want access to that, I don't know if you do. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. I think you should. $7, 7-day trial. Get yourself over in the room. See what we're all about. Have access to us all day, every day. We're in the room answering questions. I was having a nice long conversation with William Gregory all morning, pretty much from like 7:30 to 8:30 this morning. I think that's all good information for everybody. So if you want access to that, link in the description. For all you 4-leafs, I will see you 11 a.m. Just me and you, me and all of you, just us. And I'm excited for it. We'll talk about these weed stocks. We'll talk about the morning for the next hour and a half. We'll see what happens. But I hope you all have a great day and a great end of your week. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, everyone.
Peace, everybody.